Meanwhile, Syrians are preparing to vote in the first parliamentary elections since the fall of the Assad regime. The country is still reeling from over a decade of civil war that ended with the ousting of President Bashar al Assad by Islamist insurgents in December. The election results will be taken as a barometer of how serious the interim government of President Ahmad al-Sharaa is about respecting the rights of religious minorities and women.
More than 9 months after the fall of the Assad dictatorship, the new leadership in Damascus has gained growing international recognition. But back home, President Ahmad al-Sharaa and his government face a crisis of legitimacy. Some do support the government's Islamist-based rule.
Our new government is primarily based on religion, morals, and fundamental values. So it does not matter if women are represented in the parliament or not. I trust them.
But the government has failed to unite all of Syria's diverse society, particularly struggling to gain the support of those with other religious and ethnic backgrounds. At the moment, 1/3 of the country remains outside of full state control, including the Kurdish-held East. In Qamishli, Kurds who fought Islamist extremists during the war are wary of a state whose institutions now include former members of those same groups.
To gain trust, you need to establish security and political stability. In Syria, there's neither. All that the rulers in Damascus have done so far has not been representative of the views of the Syrian population as a whole.
Multiple incidents have shaken confidence in the state. In July, sectarian violence erupted in Sweden after clashes between pro-government Sunni Bedouin tribes, state forces, and Druze factions. Nearly 600 people were killed, including the documented massacres of Druze civilians. In June, a suicide bombing at a church in Damascus killed 24 Christians. Authorities said the attack was carried out by the Islamic State. Other attacks targeted the Alawite minority in Syria's coastal region. A Reuters investigation found government-linked fighters were involved. More than 1,500 people were killed.
My 3 brothers were killed in the first hours of the massacre. There's no justice in this country. There's no rule of law. When there's no rules and citizens' lives are not protected, in these circumstances, it's pointless to form a parliament.
Critics warn that until all Syrians can feel safe and represented in state institutions, there's too many obstacles in the path of a true and fair democracy.
Bente Scheller is head of the Middle East and North Africa Division at the Heinrich Böll Foundation, a think tank affiliated with the German Greens. She last traveled to Syria in July and joins us now from Berlin. Bente, these are the first parliamentary elections since Assad's fall. After decades of Assad rule, how fair and free do you imagine these elections will be?
Well, first of all, I have to say, as a German, I am impressed. It's only been 9 months since the toppling of Assad's regime. That is a short period in comparison. Remember, Germany, it took nearly 5 years to hold the first elections after World War II. So I think it is an impressive step. And the problem, however, is these elections will not be general, not be direct. And therefore, I think there are certain doubts about them. It's indirect elections. And of course, there is a large shadow about how the committees were composed.
You say they're indirect elections. Briefly walk us through how these elections will work in terms of the general electoral system, etc.
Well, there are 2 kinds of seats in the parliament. 1/3 of the seats, it's direct appointments by Ahmad al-Sharaa. The other 2/3 come through indirect elections Ahmad al-Sharaa has also appointed a general committee for the elections, and so this general committee has appointed subcommittees in each district, and these then elect electoral colleges, as it's called, from whose ranks the candidates in the end come. So it's indirect elections with a heavy hand of the president in the very composition of the bodies electing, and there is no quota, neither for minorities nor for women, for the final elections.
You talk about minorities and women. How inclusive is the process, especially for women, minorities, and displaced Syrians?
Well, there are some concerns regarding this because, I said in the last step, there is no quota for anybody. And therefore, I think these elections are a test how inclusive the new government wants to be. With this 1/3 of the seats that Sharaa himself could handpick, of course, he could still adapt and include more women, more minority members if he thinks through the general elections these were not elected. So we will really need to see how inclusive the composition of the parliament is. More important, however, will be to see whether other than Assad, the parliament will be included in shaping the policy of the coming month. It is an election for a parliament for the next 13 months. And within this period of time, a new electoral system should be developed, and the next elections should be direct, they should be fair and general.
I'm curious, do you see signs of genuine institutional reform, or is Syria heading toward a new form of authoritarianism?
What we've seen so far could go to either direction. On the one hand, I think we see an authentic effort of Sharaa to be more transparent, to really talk to people, to engage with people. This is a significant difference. However, institutional reforms have been lagging behind. I think many citizens are not happy with the slow pace that developments and improvements are going. And I think also the issue about inclusivity, we've seen so many incidents in the past month regarding the Druze, the Alawites, and the Kurds that give reason to be concerned and see how it develops. Of course, I think all these efforts need a lot of support. I think Europe should really be engaged in these and not leave the field entirely to the Gulf states, who are much closer following up with Sharaa, as well as Turkey.
Syria, of course, has long been a pariah nation. What impact might these elections have on the country's reintegration into the international community and the possible lifting of sanctions?
I think that this is really very relevant for this because there should be a first step. There should be relevant and visible signs that Sharaa means it when he says that he wants to rule a state that has reliable institutions. I think it is a positive step and it will earn him recognition. Therefore, I think that this is not really a step in the wrong direction. However, to be filled with content, to really live up to the standards that he sets will be the challenge, because just to tick a box that elections were held will not matter as much as how political reforms afterwards continue. So I think that it's really important for him to get in touch with the Druze and the Kurds, to find an arrangement with them that makes them feel represented and recognized. And this might be the main door opener also with the international community.
Bente Scheller, our deep thanks to you.